In March of 2026, MyFitnessPal announced it had bought a calorie tracking app called 𝐾𝐨. It was started by teenagers who were still in high school. By the time it sold, the app reportedly had over 15 million downloads and was doing over $30 million a year in revenue. It was less than 2 years old. And the detail most people skip past is the one that matters most. They'd never raised a dollar. There was no investors, board, or term sheet. So when the offer came, founders still owned everything they'd built. MyFitnessPal's own CEO said they didn't have to sell. They just liked the deal. Most founders never get a moment like that because the first check they take decides who gets paid when the company finally works. There's a version of this story spreading across the industry right now, where AI startups are hitting 7 and 8 figures in revenue without ever taking a check. Last year, a solo founder named 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞 built an AI app builder called Base44. He kept it profitable from its first month, and 6 months after launch, he sold it to Wix for $80 million in cash. From the outside, you can't tell them apart from the funded companies they compete with. The revenue looks the same, the customers look the same, and the product is just as good. Inside, the money behaves completely differently. This video is about the inside. What a bootstrapped company's bank account does that a funded company's doesn't, which business models can get there without outside capital, and the one mistake that kills more of these companies than any competitor. Picture 2 AI startups, both doing $2 million in annual recurring revenue. That's the total of all their customer subscriptions over a 12-month period. From the outside, they're twins. Inside, they're barely the same species. The funded one raised a few $1 million early. So at $2 million in revenue, it employs 20 to 50 people, spends heavily on sales and marketing, and loses somewhere between $50,000 and $300,000 a month on purpose. There's a big number sitting in the bank, but it burns down on a schedule. The plan was never to be profitable at this stage. The plan was to grow fast enough to raise the next round before money runs out. The founder's payday comes at the end, if there is an end. After a couple rounds of funding, they might own 20 to 40% of the company. And there are only 2 ways this ends. Either the company sells big or goes public, or they walk away with close to nothing. Now the bootstrapped one. It's the same $2 million in revenue, but the team is 5 to 10 people. Gross margins, meaning what's left from each dollar of revenue after the direct cost of serving the customer, are 70 to 85% on software. After the lean team and the marketing, 20 to 40% of revenue is profit. That profit goes to 2 places. Some of it builds a cash buffer, usually 3 to 6 months of expenses. The rest gets paid out to the founders as distributions, which is just a word for a profit the owners take home. At this size, that's often $200,000 to $500,000 a year each, and they own 80 to 100% of the company. The trade is that the buffer never gets comfortable. There's enough saved to survive a few bad months, but never much more. Every hire, ad dollar, and new tool has to pay for itself quickly because there's no investor check coming to cover a mistake. You feel every customer who cancels and every invoice that pays late. The pressure changes how these founders think. Funded founders are aggressive because the money exists to be spent. Bootstrap founders are conservative because the company lives on what it earns. You'd assume that caution makes them slow, but it mostly doesn't. One study tracked more than 200,500 software companies, and the best bootstrapped ones reached $1 million in annual revenue only about 4 months behind the venture-backed ones. 4 months slower in exchange for owning the whole thing. And more founders are choosing that trade. Carta's data shows solo-founded startups grew from about a quarter of new companies in 2019 to more than a third today. But none of this works while the company is still running through the founder's personal checking account, and almost every one of them starts there. There's a pattern in how these companies grow up, and it shows in their banking before it shows up anywhere else. Under $5,000 a month in revenue, everything is personal. Payments land in a personal account, expenses go on a personal card, and the accounting system is a spreadsheet in memory. That works right up until it doesn't. Somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000 a month, the cracks open. Tax season arrives, and business money is tangled up with rent and groceries. A first contractor needs to be paid properly. A bigger client wants a contract and an invoice from a company, not a payment request from someone's personal email. By $50,000 a month, the switch is complete. Separate accounts, payroll, an accountant, documented processes. The founder stops operating like a hustler and starts operating like an owner. The founders who make that switch early reach 7 figures with clean books and a clear head. The founders who put it off get the worst of both worlds. The business grew, but the books are a mess, tax season is a threat, and they're working harder than ever with nothing left over. So do it early. Once you're making around $5,000 a month, incorporate and open a business account. A company like 𝐸, for example, built something for this exact stage. Qualifying startups can apply for a free Delaware incorporation right inside 𝐸 in a few minutes without ever leaving the application. It's attorney reviewed, and banking and cards are live as soon as you're set up, even before your EIN. So the company starts its life with clean books instead of starting with a cleanup project. Links in the description if you want to check it out. Now, clean books keep a company healthy, but they don't decide how big it can get. The kind of business you build decides that, and some kinds of businesses can reach 7 figures on their own money, while others will always need help from an investor. Almost every company that bootstraps to 7 figures runs on one of a few business models. They all work for the same simple reason. The money from customers comes in fast enough to pay for the growth. The strongest one is vertical software. That means software built for one specific industry, like gyms, salons, construction, companies, or restaurants. The problem you solve is painful and specific. Customers pay $50 to $500 a month and keep paying, and word spreads inside the industry on its own, because these communities are tight. Gymdesk is a good example. One founder started it on nights and weekends while working a full-time job, built management software just for gyms, and in 2024, a private equity firm bought control of it in a deal worth more than $30 million. Next is productized services. You take a service, like an agency offer or consulting, and package it into a fixed scope at a fixed price, delivered the same way every time. Cash comes in immediately, often up front, and margins reach 40 to 70% once the delivery is systematized. A lot of founders start this way on purpose. The service brings in money now, and that money pays for software they build next. The third is info products and communities. Courses, paid newsletters, memberships. Margins are 80 to 95% because delivering one more copy costs close to nothing. And the fourth is simple: self-serve tool. One universal problem solved cleanly, cheap enough that customers sign up without ever talking to a salesperson. That's the model behind ChatBase, an AI chatbot builder a college student launched in 2023. It passed $1 million in annual revenue in its first 4 months, and the founder says it's now past $8 million a year without a single investor. Peter Levels runs a handful of tools like this by himself, including an AI photo studio, and posts his revenue publicly. The dashboards show around $3 million a year with no employees. What's new is that these models all existed before AI. They were just slow and expensive to start. The vertical software product that used to need a small engineering team and a year of work now gets built by one founder in a few months. Support, content, and the daily running of the company used to need staff, and now they run with far fewer people. The model didn't change because the cost of getting started collapsed. Then there's the other list, the models that almost never get to 7 figures without outside money. Marketplaces, because you have to pay to bring in both the buyers and the sellers before the thing even works. Consumer social apps, because buying users is expensive and going viral is rare. Selling to big corporations, because one deal can take most of a year to close, and the company starves while it waits to get paid. And anything that needs expensive hardware or computing power, because the bills arrive long before the money does. The test is simple. If winning your market means outspending a competitor, bootstrapping will feel like death by 1,000 cuts. If winning means one good customer pays for your next 3 hires, you can fund the whole thing from revenue. But picking the right model only gets you a product worth buying. What separates the bootstrap companies that keep growing from the ones that stall is how customers show up. Think about how a funded startup gets customers. It buys them. There's a budget line for ads and a sales team, and the investor money pays for it. A bootstrap company can't afford that line at the start. So the ones that win replace it with something they own. An email list, a content engine, a community, search traffic, referrals from customers who love the product. The difference shows up directly in the numbers. Acquiring a customer through paid ads costs $200 to $500 or more in competitive spaces, and the price climbs every year as the ad platforms get more crowded. Acquiring a customer through owned channels often costs somewhere between nothing and $150. That changes the whole financial picture of the company. A common way to judge this is comparing what customers pay you over their lifetime against what it costs to get them. Companies built on paid ads grind to get $3 back for every dollar spent, and the industries call that healthy. Companies built on owned audiences routinely see $5 to $10 back for every dollar spent. The cash timing is just as important. When a customer comes from an ad, it can take 6 to 12 months of their payments before you've earned back what you spent to get them. When a customer comes from your content or your community, they already trust you. They sign up at higher rates, pay up front more often, and the money you spent comes back in 1 to 3 months. They also stay longer. Ad customers came for a click and leave for a cheaper click. Audience customers came for you, so churn, meaning the rate at which customers cancel, stays low. And low churn is what makes revenue steady enough to plan around. The deepest difference is what happens when you stop paying for ads and customers stop the same day. The content, the community, and the search rankings keep producing after the work is done. One is an expense that resets to zero every month. The other compounds like an asset. MailChimp is the proof at the biggest scale. It grew on content and word of mouth for 2 decades, never took venture money, and sold to Intuit for $12 billion. Some of these companies do buy ads eventually. 𝐃𝐨 reportedly spent heavily on marketing once the revenue was there. The difference is they paid for those ads out of profit, not out of a round. So if you're bootstrapping, your audience is your seed round. It's the thing that buys you growth without costing you ownership. And once it's working, something dangerous happens. The model's right, the customers are cheap, and the profit shows up, which brings us to the mistake that takes out more bootstrap companies than any competitor ever will. When you raise money, discipline gets forced on you. Investors review your numbers and ask hard questions about spending. Someone is always watching. When you bootstrap, nobody's watching. And the most common money mistake bootstrap founders make comes straight from their freedom. The founder hits $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month and feels rich for the first time in years. After the ramen stage, the profit feels earned. So the salary jumps, the office gets upgraded, and the car gets upgraded. A hire gets made because we can afford it now, not because the revenue proves the role pays for itself. The founder went from scrappy and paranoid, which is the state that keeps these companies alive, to comfortable. Then one slow month arrives. The churn spike, a delayed payment, an ad platform change. The buffer that should have been 6 months of expenses turns out to be 6 weeks. And now the founder is cutting the exact things that built the growth. Just to cover a lifestyle the business was never asked to approve. The fix is a rule, and the disciplined founders follow it like a board imposed it. Pay yourself a set salary from day one, enough to cover your life at the market rate for your role. Everything above that is the company's profit, not yours. At least half of it goes back into growth and the cash buffer. The rest you can take. And you only raise your own pay after revenue has held to the new level for 6 straight months. No exceptions. The same lack of discipline explains the plateau. There's a band around 200,000 or 300,000 a year in revenue where a huge number of bootstrap founders get stuck, and it's rarely the market's fault. The founder is still personally doing the sales, the support, and the product. Nothing is documented, so hiring feels terrifying. And the revenue covers a comfortable life. The ones who break through to 7 figures do something uncomfortable right at that point. They step out of the day-to-day, write down how everything works, and make their first serious hires in roles that produce revenue. They keep the paranoia even as the numbers get good. The company stops depending on the founder's hustle and starts running on a system. That's the whole difference between 300,000 and 3 million. And here's the strange ending to this path. The founders who do all of it, who never needed a check, become the founders investors chase the most. When a bootstrap founder who's been profitable for years finally takes an investor meeting, the conversation is unrecognizable. A normal early stage pitch is a founder asking for survival. But this founder doesn't need the money, and everyone in the room knows it. The opening line changes from "please fund us" to "this is what your money would speed up." The books are clean. Steady profit, low churn, customers paying with their own money. The risk that investors normally get paid to take has already been survived. So the questions flip from will this company die to how big can they get? That position usually improves every term. Less of the company given up, better terms, and sometimes the founder sells a slice of their own shares in the deal, which means taking cash off the table years before any exit. These founders usually don't pitch at all. They get found. Atlassian ran profitably for years before it ever took outside capital, and the founders kept enormous ownership because of it. That's the actual destination of this whole path. Funding stops being oxygen and becomes a tool, something you can pick up on your terms or never pick up at all. Go back to the 𝐃𝐨 founders for a second. That ending cost them something. For almost 2 years, they were coding between classes, fixing customer problems at night, and giving up most normal teenage life while their company grew. But they owned the product, owned the distribution, kept the discipline, and never took an investor's check. So when a buyer showed up, every option on the table belonged to them. Sell or keep going. It was their call and nobody else's. That's what this way of building gets you. Not just the profit along the way, but the ending where the company is still yours to decide with. It comes with one catch. Without investors, nobody sets the foundation for you. So if you're starting down this path, qualifying startups can apply for free Delaware incorporation right inside Row. Attorney reviewed with banking and cards live as soon as you're set up. Links in the description. And if you want the other side of this decision, what founders give up the moment they raise, If You Don't Understand Funding is up next. It breaks down dilution, the terms hidden in every deal, and who controls the company once investor money is in. See you there.